You were vaccinated against measles, mumps, and rubella as a child. The man who designed those vaccines died in 2005 with no Wikipedia photo and no statue. His name was Maurice Hilleman, and one of his vaccines is the reason you don't know what mumps feels like. If you grew up in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, or most of Europe at any point after 1970, you were almost certainly vaccinated against the same childhood diseases: measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, meningitis, pneumococcal infection, Haemophilus influenzae type B. 9 separate vaccines on the standard childhood schedule. 9, all of them, every single one, were designed primarily by the same man. What you're about to learn is the reason that 1 in every 50 children in the United States used to die before age 5, and now does not. Maurice Hilleman didn't ask to be famous, but he is the reason you have grandchildren. He worked for one company, Merck, for 47 years. He developed approximately 40 vaccines in total over his career. The Centers for Disease Control estimates his work saves around 8 million lives per year. And when he died in 2005, the New York Times obituary was on page B8. Maurice Ralph Hilleman was born in 1919 in Miles City, Montana. He grew up on a chicken farm. His mother died in childbirth. His twin sister died with her. He was the 8th child in the family and was raised by an aunt and uncle on the same farm. The chickens, this matters later, would shape his entire scientific career. Most vaccines need a host medium to grow viruses for production. Hilleman would later use chicken eggs as that medium for many of his vaccines, drawing on knowledge from his childhood. He attended Montana State on scholarship, then earned a doctorate in microbiology from the University of Chicago in 1944. He was hired by E.R. Squibb to develop a vaccine for Japanese encephalitis, a wartime priority. He delivered it on time. Then in 1957, he joined Merck Sharp and Dohmer as head of their virus and cell biology division. He stayed for 47 years. The company gave him a small lab and almost total autonomy. He used both. His most famous vaccine, the one closest to home for him, was for mumps. In 1963, his 5-year-old daughter Gerald Lynn woke up with a swollen jaw. Hilleman recognized it immediately as mumps. He drove to the lab in his pajamas, got a sterile cotton swab and a vial of broth, drove back home, swabbed his daughter's throat, and drove the sample back to the lab. From that swab, he isolated the mumps virus. He named the strain Gerald Lynn after her. The mumps vaccine, licensed by Merck in 1967, 4 years after his daughter's illness, still uses the Gerald Lynn strain today, in 2026. By 1971, Hilleman had combined his individual measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines into a single shot, the MMR vaccine. It was the first combination childhood vaccine in human history. It was also a logistical revolution. Instead of 3 doctor visits, parents needed one. Compliance with the childhood vaccine schedule jumped overnight. The MMR vaccine has been administered to approximately 500 million children worldwide. It is, by total doses given, the most administered medicine in human history. But what made Hilleman exceptional was not just the vaccines, it was his pace. He developed the rubella vaccine in 18 months. A normal timeline for the era was 5 to 7 years. He developed the hepatitis B vaccine in the early 1980s from chimp serum, then redesigned it from yeast cells when chimps became ethically difficult to use. He worked through the 1986 recombinant DNA vaccine for hepatitis B, the first vaccine ever made from genetic engineering. He was 67 years old. Other scientists won the Nobel Prize. Hilleman never did. The Nobel Committee did not award the medical prize for vaccine development to Hilleman, though many of his colleagues considered him the most important vaccine researcher in the field's history. Robert Gallo, who co-discovered HIV, called Hilleman the most successful vaccinologist in history. Anthony Fauci called him one of the most extraordinary scientists of our time. Paul Offit, the inventor of the rotavirus vaccine, wrote a book about Hilleman titled simply Vaccinated. None of this got Hilleman a Nobel. One reason, Hilleman did not want one. He gave very few interviews. He published in technical journals, but not popular science. He refused most award ceremonies. When colleagues nominated him for the National Medal of Science, the documentation was the bare minimum. He told his daughter Kirsten in an interview filmed in 2003, 2 years before he died, "If you wanted to be a celebrity, you went into Hollywood. I went into vaccines because someone had to." Another reason was Merck's culture. The company kept Hilleman's profile low, partly because he often spoke unfiltered about pharmaceutical industry problems, including price and access. He testified to Congress in 1976 on hepatitis B vaccine pricing. He criticized his own company. Merck's PR division, by most internal accounts, did not promote him because he made pharmaceutical executives uncomfortable. The company benefited from his work without making him the public face. When Hilleman died on April 11, 2005, he was 85. He died of cancer. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette obituary noted, with quiet understatement, that his vaccines have prevented an estimated 8 million deaths a year worldwide. The New York Times put the obituary on page B8. CBS aired a 60-minute segment about him in 2007, posthumous. The segment opened with the line, "You may have never heard of Maurice Hilleman." Today, more than 20 years after his death, the Gerald Lynn mumps strain still circulates in every MMR shot administered. The hepatitis B vaccine he designed is the standard of care for newborns in nearly every country. The pneumococcal conjugate vaccine he developed is given to children before they are 2 years old. Each of these has, conservatively, saved millions of lives. None of them are associated in public memory with the name Hilleman. The records exist, the patent filings, the laboratory notebooks, the FDA approval documents, all preserved at the National Archives and Merck's corporate archive. His daughter Gerald Lynn, the one with the mumps, gave a single public interview about her father in 2011. She said he was the most modest, brilliant person I have ever known. That was the entire quote. 1 in every 50 American children in 1900 did not survive to age 5. Today that number is closer to 1 in 200. Many factors are responsible: sanitation, antibiotics, surgical advances. But a substantial portion of the difference is the schedule of vaccines that almost every child in the developed world receives. 9 of the 14 vaccines on that schedule were primarily Hilleman's work. You were given those vaccines without knowing his name. Your children received them. Your grandchildren will receive them. There is no statue. There is no Wikipedia infobox photograph because Merck never released a high-quality portrait. There is a small park in Miles City, Montana, named after him, local recognition only. The ledger of what was prevented has no header, because the deaths that didn't happen are not counted. If history forgot them, the bell ensures you don't. New case file every Tuesday.